Well, the federal judge in charge of sentencing former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn is now taking a very close look at the way the government handled Flynn's case. You'll remember that Flynn pleaded guilty to one count of lying to federal authorities. Now his lawyers say that the FBI actively encouraged Flynn not to bring an attorney to the fateful interview he did with agents at the White House right after the inauguration. The judge in question ordered Mueller to hand over documents related to that interview. Why is the question. The Federalist Molly Hemingway has been covering the story from day one, and she joins us tonight. So why is the judge sounds suspicious that this was not handled appropriately?
Emmett Sullivan has a reputation for wanting to know that the government has done everything by the book. He was the judge who had problems with the Ted Stevens prosecution.
Right.
And I think there's reason to be suspicious about what happened here. I mean, nothing seems to have been done in the way that you would hope that the Justice Department would be doing things if they wanted to hold everyone equally accountable to the law. I mean, one of the things that hasn't even been brought up here that I think is interesting is they leaked to the Washington Post the day before they went to interview him that he was totally out of trouble. And I think it sounds kind of suspicious that they were doing this on the eve of calling him up and saying, hey, do you mind if we come over and talk to you? Because it made him feel like this was not a perjury trap, that this was not an investigation into him. In fact, they had been actually surveilling him for years, and they were definitely trying to ring him up on a perjury trap. So it's very important to make sure that they did every, you can have a problem already with how they did things. If they weren't dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and it looks like they might not have been, this judge might not take it.
So there have been reports, about a lot of things, and sometimes it's hard to sort through and determine which are true or not, but that the agents who interviewed Flynn at the White House without his lawyer, who actually did the interview, believed he did not commit perjury.
We've already had FBI officials admit that the agents who interviewed him did not think that he was lying. And what's interesting about this judge's order is he wants to know about the paperwork they filed 7 months later. Now, usually when an FBI agent interviews someone, they file paperwork right away. In this case, one of the agents was Peter Strzok, who was later removed from the special counsel probe because of his extreme partisan bias. So they had to redo their paperwork. And so he ends up pleading guilty to lying based on paperwork that was 7 months old.
Do we know why the feds were surveilling General Flynn for years?
We don't know exactly why they were doing it. What we do know is that a previous leak was used to continue that surveillance. So they were about to close out the surveillance of him because they hadn't found him doing anything wrong. Well, then they leaked to the Washington Post, again, to a friendly reporter, that he might have committed a Logan Act violation. That was absurd, but it was enough to keep the surveillance going, enough to keep the investigation going. Now, at the end of the day, after years of surveillance, after being told that he was the centerpiece of treason with Russia, he ends up pleading that he lied about a statement to the FBI. That is a huge walk down from what we were promised at the outset.
That he committed a crime, in other words, that arose from the investigation itself.
The investigation created its own crime, yes.
Amazing. Molly Hemingway, thank you very much.
Thank you.